Jin Park's feet hurt. After 8 hours of walking back and forth across the polished floors of Seoul's most expensive restaurant, the Golden Palace, anyone's feet would hurt. But Jin didn't complain. She never complained. This job helped pay for her quantum physics studies at Seoul National University, and that was all that mattered. The restaurant's soft lights made everything glow with a warm golden color. It was almost closing time, and most of the guests had already left. Jin checked her watch. 9:45 p.m. Just 15 more minutes, and she could go home to study for tomorrow's quantum mechanics exam. Jin called Jae-ho Kim, the restaurant manager. His voice was quiet but urgent. "Please clean table 12 again. We have a very important guest coming." Jin nodded and walked to table 12. The table was already clean, but she wiped it again anyway. Jae-ho was always very careful about important guests. That's why the Golden Palace was the best restaurant in Seoul. As she finished cleaning, the front door opened. Cold winter air rushed in, making the crystal chandeliers tinkle softly. Jin looked up, and her hand froze mid-wipe. Walking through the door was a face she had seen countless times on television and the internet. Elon Musk. He wasn't alone. 2 men in black suits walked with him, probably security guards. They looked around the restaurant carefully before letting him walk to table 12. Jin's table. "Remember," whispered Sun Mi Lee, the senior waitress who had appeared beside her. "He's just another guest. Treat him normally." Sun Mi had worked at the Golden Palace for 20 years. She always knew exactly what to say. Jin took a deep breath and walked to the table. Her heart was beating fast, but her steps were steady. She had served many famous people before, movie stars, politicians, and business leaders. This was no different. "Good evening, sir," she said in careful English. "Welcome to the Golden Palace." She handed him the menu, making sure to hold it at the perfect angle, just as she had been trained. Musk looked up at her and smiled. It was a tired smile, but friendly. "Thank you," he said. "What do you recommend?" Jin's mind raced through the menu she had memorized. "Our chef's special tonight is the Korean royal cuisine. It includes 12 small dishes that show the best of Korean cooking. Each dish tells a story of our culture." "Perfect," Musk said. "I'll have that. And just water, please." Jin wrote down the order and walked to the kitchen. As she pushed through the swinging doors, she let out a long breath. Her hands were shaking slightly, but not from being nervous about serving a famous person. There was something else, something she couldn't explain. When Musk had looked at her, it felt like he was looking for something. In the kitchen, Chef Moon was already preparing the special. His hands moved quickly, placing tiny amounts of food on beautiful plates. Each plate was like a small artwork. Jin watched as he worked, amazed as always by his skill. "Did you notice anything strange?" Sun Mi asked, appearing beside her again. "What do you mean?" "About Mr. Musk. Did you notice his briefcase?" Jin fought back. Yes, there had been a briefcase. It looked ordinary, but it had strange markings on it, she said, like circles inside circles. Sun Mi nodded. "I've never seen anything like it, and I've served presidents and kings." Jin picked up the first 3 dishes of the royal cuisine and carried them to table 12. As she placed them down, she noticed Musk was writing something in a small notebook. The writing didn't look like English or Korean. It looked more like the equations she studied in her quantum physics classes. "These are beautiful," Musk said, looking at the food. Then he looked at Jin's name tag. Jin, that's a nice name. Does it have a meaning?" "Yes, sir," she replied. Means summer, and Jin means truth. "Summer truth," he said softly, as if he was solving a puzzle. "Do you like puzzles, Jin?" The question surprised her. "Yes, sir, very much. Especially physics puzzles." Something flickered in his eyes. "Physics?" he asked. "What kind of physics?" I study quantum physics at Seoul National University, she said. Then she worried she was talking too much. Guests usually didn't want to hear about their server's life. But Musk seemed very interested. Quantum physics, he repeated. Fascinating field. Have you studied quantum entanglement? He-Jin's eyes lit up. Quantum entanglement was the subject of her research paper. Yes, sir. Actually, I'm working on a paper about using quantum entanglement for communication. Musk smiled again, but this time it was different. It was like he had found something he was looking for. He opened his briefcase slightly, and He-Jin caught a glimpse of something glowing inside. Something that pulsed with a blue light. I look forward to reading your paper someday, he said. Then he turned to his food, and He-Jin knew the conversation was over. For the next hour, she served the remaining dishes of the royal cuisine. Each time she approached the table, she noticed more strange things. The way Musk's briefcase hummed softly. The way his phone screen showed patterns she had never seen before. The way he kept writing equations that looked impossible. At 11:30 p.m., long after the restaurant usually closed, Musk finally finished his meal. He-Jin brought the check in a leather folder, just as she had done thousands of times before. But this time felt different. This time felt important. Musk took out a pen that seemed to change color as he wrote. He-Jin tried not to watch as he signed the check, but she couldn't help noticing that he was writing much more than just a signature. Thank you for excellent service, he said, standing up. Keep the folder. Don't open it until I leave. He picked up his briefcase, and He-Jin noticed that the circles on it were moving, spinning slowly like tiny galaxies. As Musk walked to the door, He-Jin held the leather folder tightly. Her hands were tingling, like they did sometimes when she worked with the quantum physics equipment at university. The door closed behind him. For a moment, everything was quiet. Then Sun-Mai and Ji-Ho appeared beside her. Open it, Sun-Mai whispered. He-Jin's hands trembled as she opened the leather folder. Inside was the check, but it wasn't a normal check. The paper seemed to shimmer, like it was made of something not quite solid. And instead of a signature, there was an equation. He-Jin's eyes widened. The equation was exactly like the one she had been trying to solve for her research paper, but this version was complete, perfect, and solved in a way she had never imagined possible. Below the equation were words written in that color-changing ink. Some waitresses serve food. Others serve humanity's future. Check your quantum physics lab tomorrow, at 3 p.m. He-Jin stared at the words until they blurred. Her head felt light, and her feet didn't hurt anymore. In fact, she couldn't feel her feet at all. He-Jin. Ji-Ho's voice seemed to come from far away. Are you okay? She looked up at her manager and senior waitress. Their faces showed concern, but also excitement. They had worked at the Golden Palace long enough to know when something extraordinary was happening. I'm okay, He-Jin said. But I think my life just changed. Sun-Mai picked up the leather folder that had fallen from He-Jin's hands. The check, she said. It's glowing. And it was. The paper was giving off a faint blue light, the same color He-Jin had seen in Musk's briefcase. The equation seemed to float above the paper's surface, like a hologram. What does it mean? Ji-Ho asked. He-Jin touched the equation gently. The numbers and symbols felt warm under her fingers. It means, she said slowly, that being a waitress at the Golden Palace wasn't an accident. Nothing about tonight was an accident. She looked at the clock on the wall. It was almost midnight. In 15 hours, she would be at her quantum physics lab, and she would find out why one of the world's most famous people had given her an impossible equation on a glowing check. But for now, she still had to finish her shift. She picked up a cloth and started cleaning table 12. As she wiped the surface, she noticed something strange. The table seemed to hum under her hands, just like Musk's briefcase had hummed. He-Jin smiled. Maybe this was how all great adventures started. Not with explosions or drama, but with a quiet hum on an ordinary night, while doing an ordinary job. She looked out the window at the Seoul skyline, where millions of lights twinkled like stars. Somewhere out there, Elon Musk was probably looking at the same view, carrying his humming briefcase with its spinning circles. Tomorrow would bring whatever it would bring. But tonight, Jin would do what she always did. She would clean her tables, help Sun Mei close the restaurant, and then go home to study quantum physics. After all, she was Jin Park. Her name meant summer truth. And tonight, she felt like she was one step closer to finding out what that truth might be. The next morning felt different to Jin. The sun looked the same as it rose over Seoul's tall buildings, and the street vendors still sold their steaming hot fish cakes, but everything seemed to hold a new meaning. She had spent half the night studying the strange equation from Musk's check, copying it carefully into her notebook before the glowing ink faded away. At exactly 2:45 p.m., Jin stood outside her university's quantum physics laboratory. Her hands were sweating as she held her student ID card. Her research partner, Taewon Choi, waited with her. She had told him everything about the previous night. "Are you sure about this?" Taewon asked. He pushed his glasses up his nose, something he always did when he was nervous. "It sounds impossible. I saw it with my own eyes," Jin said. She took out her notebook and showed him the equation again. "Look at this part. It's exactly what we've been trying to figure out for months." Taewon studied the equation. "But this solution, it breaks all the rules we know about quantum mechanics." "Maybe we don't know all the rules yet." At exactly 3:00 p.m., they opened the laboratory door. The familiar smell of electronics and cleaning supplies greeted them. Everything looked normal. The computers humming quietly, the quantum measurement devices blinking their usual patterns, the whiteboards covered in calculations. But something was different. On their usual workbench sat a small black box that hadn't been there yesterday. It was about the size of a lunchbox, with the same circular markings Jin had seen on Musk's briefcase. "Should we touch it?" Taewon whispered. Before Jin could answer, the box made a soft clicking sound. A blue light appeared on its top surface, projecting a hologram into the air. The hologram showed a series of numbers and letters, slowly rotating. "It's coordinates," Jin said. She recognized the format from her part-time job at a shipping company during her first year of university. "They point to somewhere in Korea." Taewon was already typing the coordinates into his computer. "It's a location in the countryside," he said, "about 2 hours from Seoul by car." The hologram changed, showing new words. "Bring the equation. Come alone. Tell no one except Taewon Choi." Jin and Taewon looked at each other. "How did it know my name?" Taewon asked, his voice shaking slightly. "The same way Musk knew about my research," Jin said. "They've been watching us." The black box made another clicking sound and opened like a flower blooming. Inside was a small device that looked like a car key, but instead of buttons, it had a screen showing the same coordinates. "We should call the police," Taewon said. Jin picked up the device. It felt warm in her hand, like it was alive. "No," she said. "This is too important. Think about it. The equation he gave me. It solves problems that the world's best scientists haven't figured out. If this is real, it could change everything." Taewon finished. He sighed. "When do we leave?" The note said to come alone. "You're not going alone," Taewon said firmly. "I've been your research partner for 2 years. We solve problems together." Jin smiled. This was why she liked working with Taewon. He was careful and nervous about small things, but brave when it really mattered. They decided to leave right away. Taewon had an old car that his parents had given him when he started university. As they drove out of Seoul, the city's huge buildings gave way to smaller towns, and then to green countryside. The device from the black box seemed to know where they were going. Its screen showed an arrow pointing the way, and the distance counting down in kilometers. As they got closer to their destination, He-Jin noticed strange things happening. Their phone signals disappeared. The car's radio stopped working. Even Taiwan's watch, which could work underwater, went black. Something's blocking all electronics, Taiwan said. Not all of them, He-Jin pointed out. The device from the black box still worked perfectly. After 2 hours of driving, the arrow pointed them onto a small dirt road. The road led up a hill covered in trees. At the top of the hill, they found a gate made of black metal. The gate had the same circular markings as Musk's briefcase and the black box. The device in He-Jin's hand beeped once. The gate opened silently. Last chance to turn back, Taiwan said. He-Jin looked at him. Are you scared? Yes, he admitted, but also excited. They drove through the gate. The road led to a building that looked like a normal warehouse, painted white with no windows. But as they got closer, He-Jin realized it wasn't normal at all. The walls seemed to shift color slightly when you looked at them from different angles. And there was that humming sound again, the same one she had heard from Musk's briefcase. They parked the car and walked to the building's only door. Before they could touch it, the door opened by itself. Cool air rushed out, smelling clean and slightly metallic. Inside, lights came on automatically as they walked. The warehouse was one huge room filled with strange machines. Some looked like normal computers, but others were like nothing He-Jin had ever seen. There were things that floated in the air without any support, screens that showed images that seemed to move in more directions than should be possible, and devices that changed shape as they washed. In the center of the room was a desk with 2 chairs. On the desk was a computer screen, a keyboard, and a note written on normal paper. The note said, "Show me you understand the equation." He-Jin sat down at the desk. Taiwan stood behind her, looking at the strange machines around them. The computer screen came to life. It showed a blank space for typing, like a test waiting to be taken. He-Jin took out her notebook with the copied equation. "Look at this part," Taiwan said, pointing to a section of the equation. "It's suggesting that quantum entanglement can be controlled. That's supposed to be impossible." "Maybe impossible just means we haven't figured it out yet," He-Jin said. She began typing, explaining each part of the equation in simple terms. As she typed, she added her own thoughts, the questions that had kept her awake last night. When she finished typing, the screen went black. For a moment, nothing happened. Then words appeared. "Well done, He-Jin Park. You didn't just memorize the equation. You understood it. And more importantly, you questioned it." The words disappeared, replaced by new ones. "Now, let me show you why you're here." The lights in the warehouse dimmed. In the center of the room, above the desk, a large hologram appeared. It showed the Earth, spinning slowly, but with strange lines connecting different points on the planet. The lines pulsed with light, like they were carrying information. "Those are quantum communication channels," Taiwan whispered. "But that's impossible," a voice said. They turned around. Elon Musk stood in the doorway, holding his briefcase with the spinning circles. "Impossible is just a word humans use for things they haven't learned yet." He-Jin stood up. "Why me?" she asked. "Why did you choose me?" Musk walked to the desk. "Because you understand both worlds," he said. "You understand quantum physics, yes. But you also understand people. Working as a waitress has taught you to read people, to understand their needs, to solve problems quietly and efficiently." He smiled. "We don't just need scientists, He-Jin. We need people who understand humanity." "We?" Taiwan asked. Musk opened his briefcase. Inside was a device that looked like a small globe, but the continents were made of light, and tiny dots of different colors moved across its surface. "Humanity is not alone," Musk said. "We never were. But before we can join the larger community of intelligent life, we need to prove ourselves ready. That's what the equation is about. It's not just about quantum communication. It's about showing that humans can handle advanced knowledge responsibly." He-Jin looked at the equation in her notebook. then at the hologram of Earth with its glowing lines, then at the strange globe in Musk's briefcase. Everything was connecting in her mind, like quantum particles linking across space. "The restaurant," she said slowly. "That wasn't a coincidence. You chose that place, that time." "We've been watching promising students around the world," Musk said, "looking for the right combinations of intelligence and wisdom. The equation wasn't just a test of your physics knowledge. It was a test of your character." "What happens now?" Taiwan asked. Musk touched the globe in his briefcase. The hologram of Earth changed, showing more lines, more connections. "Now," he said, "you help us build the network that will connect humanity to the stars." He-Jin looked at Taiwan. Her research partner nodded slightly. They both understood that this moment would change their lives forever. This wasn't just about physics anymore. It wasn't just about Earth anymore. "When do we start?" He-Jin asked. Musk smiled. "You already have. The moment you decided to come here, to follow a mystery instead of ignoring it, you became part of something bigger." He took out another black box, similar to the one from the laboratory. "Take this. Study it. Tomorrow, come back here at the same time." And He-Jin, "Yes. Don't quit your job at the restaurant. Sometimes the best way to watch history change is from behind a serving tray." As they drove back to Seoul that evening, the sun was setting, turning the sky orange and purple. The black box sat in He-Jin's lap, humming softly. Her notebook with the equation was in her bag. And in her mind, new questions were forming, bigger than any she had asked before. Tomorrow would bring more answers, but also more questions. And somehow, He-Jin knew that serving dinner to guests at the Golden Palace would never feel quite the same again. That night, He-Jin couldn't sleep. The black box sat on her small apartment desk, its circles slowly spinning, casting soft blue shadows on her walls. She had tried to open it like the first one, but it remained sealed. Next to it lay her notebook, filled with her attempts to understand what she had seen at the warehouse. Her phone buzzed. It was a message from the restaurant. "Regular shift tomorrow, 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. He-Jin smiled, remembering Musk's words about watching history from behind a serving tray. The next morning, she met Taiwan at the university laboratory early. They had agreed to study the black box before their other commitments. The laboratory looked ordinary again, as if yesterday's events had been a dream. "I did some research last night," Taiwan said, setting up his laptop. "Look at this." He showed He-Jin a series of news articles about strange scientific discoveries around the world. "They're all connected. Small breakthroughs that seemed random, but when you put them together, they form a pattern," He-Jin finished. She could see it now. Scientists in different countries making discoveries that were pieces of a larger puzzle. The black box suddenly hummed to life. Its surface rippled like water, and a new hologram appeared. This time, it showed what looked like a map, but not of any place on Earth. The shapes were strange, flowing lines that moved and changed. "It's responding to our conversation," He-Jin said. "It's showing us something about these connected discoveries." Taiwan reached out to touch the hologram. As his finger passed through the light, the image changed, zooming in on one particular section. Numbers and symbols appeared, similar to the equation from Musk's check, but more complex. "He-Jin," Taiwan said slowly, "I think this is a map of quantum space, not physical space, but the space where quantum particles connect to each other." Before He-Jin could respond, her phone buzzed again. This time, it wasn't the restaurant. The message showed only coordinates, different from yesterday's, and a time. 12:00 p.m. They had 3 hours. The drive to the new location took them away from Seoul in a different direction. This time, they headed toward the coast. The device from yesterday's black box still worked, guiding them along smaller and smaller roads until they reached what looked like an abandoned fishing dock. "This can't be right," Taiwan said, looking at the old wooden buildings and rusty boats. But He-Jin had noticed something. One of the boats, seemingly as old and forgotten as the others, had those familiar circular markings on its side. They were painted to look like rust stains, but the patterns were unmistakable. As they walked toward the boat, a figure stepped out from behind one of the buildings. It was Young Ho Kang, a famous quantum physicist whose work He-Jin had studied. She had never met him in person, but everyone in the field knew his face. "Right on time," Kang said, smiling. "Musk said you would be punctual." "Professor Kang." Taiwan's voice was full of surprise. "Your papers on quantum tunneling were part of this," Kang finished. "Just like your work on quantum entanglement, He-Jin. We've all been working on pieces of the same puzzle." He gestured to the boat. "Shall we?" The boat's interior was nothing like its outside. Walking down the steps was like entering another world. Advanced equipment lined the walls. Screens showed data in formats He-Jin had never seen before, and in the center was a large circular platform that hummed with energy. "Welcome to one of our quantum observation stations," Kang said. "We have them hidden all around the world, monitoring the quantum communication network as it develops." "As it develops?" He-Jin asked. "You mean it's already being built?" Kang walked to one of the screens and touched it. The circular platform in the center lit up, projecting a three-dimensional image of Earth. Thousands of tiny lines of light connected different points on the planet's surface. Each of these lines, Kang explained, is a quantum link. Some are natural, formed by entangled particles that exist in the Earth's structure. Others we've created, using knowledge shared with us by our visitors. "The aliens," Taiwan said. Kang nodded. "Though they prefer the term cosmic colleagues, they've been watching Earth for centuries, waiting for us to reach a certain level of scientific understanding. But more importantly, waiting for us to reach a certain level of social development." He touched another screen, and the black box He-Jin had brought suddenly opened. Inside was what looked like a small crystal, glowing with an inner light. "This is a quantum key," Kang said. "It's tuned to your specific quantum signature. Everyone has one, like a fingerprint in quantum space. The visitors use these signatures to identify individuals across vast distances." He-Jin picked up the crystal. It felt warm in her hand, and the light inside pulsed in time with her heartbeat. "Why me?" she asked again. "There are better scientists." "Science isn't everything," Kang said. "The visitors have learned that pure intelligence without empathy leads to disaster. They look for people who understand both the equations and the human heart." He smiled. "Your work at the restaurant showed them how you handle people, how you solve problems, how you stay calm under pressure. The quantum physics was almost secondary." Taiwan was examining the equipment along the walls. "These readings," he said, "they're showing quantum activity that shouldn't be possible." "That's right," Kang said. "The rules of quantum mechanics as we know them are just the beginning. The visitors have shown us that consciousness itself plays a role in quantum interactions. That's why they need people who understand both science and humanity." The crystal in He-Jin's hand grew warmer. The hologram of Earth changed, showing new lines forming, connecting the quantum observation station to other points around the planet. "What you're seeing," Kang said, "is your quantum key connecting to the network. It's recognizing you as a node in the system." "A node?" He-Jin asked. "A point of connection. Through you, through your understanding of both quantum science and human nature, we can help build bridges, not just between points in space, but between different ways of thinking." He-Jin watched as the lines of light spread from her location, reaching out across the globe. She could feel something changing, not just in the crystal she held, but in her understanding of the world. "The equation Musk gave you," Kang continued, "was a key to understanding how quantum connections can be guided by consciousness. The visitors believe that when enough humans understand this connection, we'll be ready to join the larger community of conscious beings in the universe." "How long have you been part of this?" Taiwan asked. 5 years, Kang replied. "I was approached much like He-Jin, though in my case it was at a coffee shop in Paris." He laughed. The visitors have a sense of humor about these things. They like to make first contact in ordinary places. A new alarm sounded from one of the screens. Kang walked over to check it, his expression becoming serious. "It's time," he said. "He-Jin, your quantum key is fully synchronized. Now you have a choice to make." "What choice?" "Whether to become a full participant in this project. If you accept, you'll continue your normal life, your studies, your work at the restaurant, but you'll also be part of something much larger. You'll help us understand how to use these quantum connections responsibly, how to prepare humanity for a bigger universe." He-Jin looked at the crystal in her hand, then at Ta-Wan. Her research partner nodded slightly. "What about Ta-Wan?" she asked. Kang smiled. "The visitors knew you would ask that. They've been watching him too. His quantum key is being prepared at another station." He-Jin felt a weight lift from her shoulders. She wouldn't have to do this alone. "I accept," she said. The crystal flared brightly, and for a moment, He-Jin felt connected to everything. Every quantum link, every point of light on the holographic Earth. She sensed other minds, other consciousness, watching and approving. "Welcome to the project," Kang said. "Your real work begins now." As they drove back to Seoul, He-Jin held the crystal carefully. She had a shift at the restaurant in 2 hours, and tomorrow there were university classes to attend. Her life would look the same on the surface, but everything had changed. "Are you scared?" Ta-Wan asked as they neared the city. "No," He-Jin said, and she meant it. "I feel like I've been preparing for this my whole life without knowing it." The quantum key pulsed warmly in her hand, like a heartbeat from the universe itself. 1 week had passed since He-Jin received her quantum key. Life continued as normal on the surface. She still served tables at the Golden Palace and attended her university classes. But everything felt different now. The crystal hung on a thin chain around her neck, hidden under her clothes, its warmth a constant reminder of her new role. Today was different. Professor Kang had called both He-Jin and Ta-Wan to the quantum observation station for what he called the first real test. They arrived at the old fishing dock early in the morning, the sea breeze carrying the smell of salt and seaweed. "Ready?" Ta-Wan asked as they walked toward the disguised boat. His own quantum key glowed faintly through his shirt pocket. "I think so," He-Jin replied. Over the past week, she had practiced connecting to the quantum network, learning to feel the subtle links between different points in space. It was like learning a new sense, like opening eyes she never knew she had. Inside the station, they found not only Professor Kang but also 3 other people they didn't recognize. 2 women and a man, each wearing simple business clothes and carrying similar crystals. "Meet your fellow test participants," Kang said. Sunhee from Beijing, Marcus from Toronto, and Maria from Sao Paulo. Like you, they were chosen for their unique combination of scientific knowledge and human understanding. He-Jin looked at the others. Sunhee had a calm, thoughtful face and moved with the grace of a dancer. Marcus's eyes were kind, and he had paint stains on his fingers. An artist, as well as a scientist. Maria's smile was warm, and she carried a medical bag. A doctor, perhaps. "Today's test is crucial," Kang continued. "The visitors want to see how humans from different backgrounds can work together using the quantum network. They'd prepared a series of challenges that will test both your scientific knowledge and your ability to cooperate." The central platform hummed to life, creating a holographic space around them. The room seemed to disappear, replaced by what looked like a 3-dimensional maze of light. "Each of you has part of the information needed to navigate this quantum space," Kang explained. "But more importantly, each of you has a unique way of seeing the problem. You must combine these perspectives to succeed." He-Jin felt her quantum key grow warmer. Through it, she could sense the others' keys responding too, creating a web of connections between them. "The first challenge begins now," Kang said, and stepped back to the edge of the room. The maze of light pulsed with energy. He-Jin could see patterns in it that reminded her of the equations she studied in quantum physics. But there was something else, something about the way the light moved. "It's like a dance." "Son," he said suddenly. "The patterns, they're moving like traditional Chinese dance steps." "And look at the colors," Marcus added. "They're combining in ways that follow artistic color theory. It's not random at all." Maria stepped forward, her medical training showing in her analysis. "The pulses, they're like heartbeats, different rhythms working together." He-Jin closed her eyes and felt the quantum connections between them growing stronger. Through the network, she could sense how each person saw the puzzle differently. Son, he saw movement and flow. Marcus saw color and composition. Maria saw rhythms and patterns of life. And Tadwan. "The math is beautiful," Tadwan said quietly. "But it's not just equations. It's like the mathematics is trying to describe something more. Something human." He-Jin finished. She opened her eyes and looked at the maze again. "We're not supposed to solve this with just science or just intuition. We need both." Working together, they began to unravel the puzzle. Son, he would identify a pattern of movement. Marcus would see how the colors needed to flow. Maria would match it to natural rhythms she knew from medicine. And Taiwan would translate it all into mathematical terms. He-Jin found herself acting as a bridge between them, combining their insights with her own understanding of quantum mechanics. The maze began to shift and change in response to their efforts. As they worked, He-Jin noticed something remarkable. Their quantum keys were synchronizing, creating a shared field of consciousness that made communication easier and deeper than words. "This is incredible," Marcus said, his artist's eyes wide with wonder. "It's like we're painting with reality itself." Hours passed. Though time felt strange in the quantum space, they faced challenge after challenge, each one requiring a different combination of their skills and perspectives. Sometimes they had to think like scientists, sometimes like artists, sometimes like healers. Through it all, He-Jin kept thinking about her work at the restaurant, how serving different customers required understanding their different needs, how solving problems required both practical knowledge and human insight. Those skills were proving just as valuable here as her quantum physics education. Near what felt like the end of the test, they faced their most difficult challenge. The quantum maze presented them with what looked like a broken connection in the network, a gap that needed to be bridged. "The mathematics say it's impossible," Taiwan said, frustration in his voice. "The quantum states are too different. They can't be connected." "But look at the flow," Son, he said, moving her hands in graceful arcs. "There's a pattern that wants to complete itself." "The colors are reaching for each other," Marcus added, "like they want to blend." Maria touched her medical bag thoughtfully. "In the human body, sometimes healing happens in ways that science says shouldn't be possible. But it happens anyway, because life finds a way." He-Jin felt something click in her mind. "Maybe that's it," she said. "Maybe we're not supposed to force the connection. Maybe we're supposed to let it happen naturally, like healing, like art, like dance." She reached out and touched her quantum key. The others did the same. Together, they stopped trying to solve the problem, and instead opened themselves to the possibility of connection. Their synchronized consciousness created a field of potential, a space where the impossible could become possible. The gap in the quantum maze began to close, not through force or calculation, but through harmony. The connection formed itself, beautiful and natural, like a flower blooming. The holographic space faded away, returning them to the observation station. Professor Kang was smiling. "Excellent," he said. "You've understood the most important lesson. The quantum network isn't just a scientific tool. It's a bridge between different ways of knowing and understanding." He-Jin looked at her new friends. In just one day, they had formed connections deeper than years of normal friendship could create. Through the quantum network, they had shared not just thoughts but ways of seeing the world. "This is just the beginning," Kang continued. "The visitors want to see how humanity can use these connections to solve bigger problems. Climate change, disease, conflict, All these challenges require us to combine different kinds of knowledge and understanding. When's the next test? Son, he asked. That's up to you, Kang replied. Take time to process what you've learned today. Return to your normal lives. Practice using your quantum keys to maintain the connections you've made. The next challenge will present itself when you're ready. As they prepared to leave, exchanging contact information and promises to stay in touch, Ho-jin felt a deep sense of purpose. She had always thought that being a waitress while studying quantum physics made her life seem divided. Now she understood that it had prepared her perfectly for this role, this bridge between different worlds. Ho-jin, Professor Kang called as she was leaving. Don't forget your evening shift at the restaurant. She smiled. I won't. After all, the best way to watch history change is from behind a serving tray. They finished together. Driving back to Seoul with Taiwan, Ho-jin touched her quantum key, feeling the warm connections to her new friends across the world. The crystal pulsed with possibility, promising more adventures, more challenges, more chances to bring together the scientific and the human. She had 3 hours until her shift at the Golden Palace began, just enough time to change clothes and process everything that had happened. She wondered if any of today's customers would guess that their waitress had spent the morning helping to build bridges between quantum states and human consciousness. Probably not. But that was part of the beauty of it all. 1 month had passed since the first group test. Ho-jin stood at table 12 in the Golden Palace, the same table where her journey had begun. As she placed down a bowl of soup for an elderly customer, she felt her quantum key pulse warmly against her skin. Something was about to happen. The restaurant was unusually quiet for a Friday evening. Ho-jin looked around at the familiar golden lights and crystal chandeliers. Only 3 tables were occupied. The elderly man eating soup, a young couple celebrating their anniversary, and a group of business people discussing contracts. Her quantum key pulsed again, stronger this time. Through the network, she could sense her friends responding. Sun-hee in Beijing, Oz during her dance class. Marcus in Toronto put down his paintbrush. Maria in Sao Paulo stepped away from her hospital rounds. Taiwan, working late at the university laboratory, looked up from his computer. The front door opened. Professor Kang walked in, followed by Elon Musk, and 3 people Ho-jin had never seen before. But something about them felt different. Their movements were too precise, their eyes too knowing. The visitors, she realized. They have finally come in person. Table 12 is available, Ho-jin said calmly, as if she was greeting any other customers. Musk smiled at her composure. The group sat down, and Ho-jin felt the quantum network come alive around them. The air seemed to shimmer slightly, though none of the other customers appeared to notice. The usual test location has been compromised, Kang said quietly as Ho-jin poured water. We need to conduct the final evaluation here. Here, Ho-jin whispered. In the restaurant. The visitors believe this is perfect, Musk said. This is where it all began for you. And more importantly, this is a place where different types of people come together naturally. Ho-jin nodded, understanding. Through her quantum key, she could feel her friends preparing to connect. The network hummed with potential. Your final test begins now, one of the visitors said. Their voice was perfectly human, but Ho-jin could feel the ancient wisdom behind it. The quantum network is destabilizing. You have 1 hour to prevent a cascade failure that would sever Earth's connection to the galactic community. Ho-jin looked at her watch. The dinner rush would start in an hour. As if reading her thoughts, Musk added, You'll need to solve this while maintaining your normal duties. The ability to bridge worlds includes the ability to stay grounded in both. The visitors raised their hands slightly, and Ho-jin felt the quantum network shift. Through her key, she could see what they meant. The delicate web of quantum connections that spanned the globe was developing gaps, like a spider's web beginning to tear. She took a deep breath and reached out through her quantum key. Everyone ready. The response came instantly. Sun-hee, Marcus, Maria, and Taiwan connected their consciousness to hers. Together, they could see the problem more clearly. The quantum network wasn't just breaking. It was changing, evolving into something new. Like a butterfly emerging from a cocoon, Sun He said through their connection. The old structure has to break for the new one to form. The colors are shifting to frequencies we've never seen before, Marcus added, his artist's eye seeing patterns in the quantum flow. Maria's medical knowledge provided another insight. It's like a growth spurt in a child. The old connections have to stretch and reform. The mathematics are rewriting themselves, Taiwan observed, creating new rules as they go. He-Jin processed all this while carrying soup to table 3 and taking the drink order from table 7. Each movement through the restaurant helped her understand something new about the quantum network's evolution. "We're thinking about this wrong," she said to her friends through their connection. "We're not supposed to prevent the change. We're supposed to guide it, like a waitress guiding customers through their dining experience." Musk finished aloud, having followed her thought process. He-Jin smiled. "Exactly. We don't force people to eat at a certain speed. We read their needs, adjust our service, help them have the best experience possible." Through the network, she felt her friends' understanding. Together, they began to work with the quantum field's natural rhythms rather than against them. Sun He's sense of movement helped them flow with the changes. Marcus's understanding of color and pattern helped them see where the new connections wanted to form. Maria's knowledge of natural growth and healing helped them support the network's evolution. Taiwan's mathematical insight helped them understand the new rules as they emerged. And He-Jin, moving between tables with practiced grace, helped them maintain balance between all these different aspects. The visitors watched silently, their eyes following her as she performed her normal duties while simultaneously helping to reshape humanity's connection to the cosmos. The other customers remained unaware of the profound changes taking place around them, though some felt inexplicably uplifted, as if touched by something wonderful they couldn't quite name. As the hour drew to a close, He-Jin felt the quantum network stabilize into its new form. It was vastly more complex than before, but also more resilient. The connections between points were no longer just lines of force. They were living things, capable of growth and adaptation. "It's beautiful," Marcus whispered through their connection. "And more importantly, it's sustainable," Maria added. "It can grow with us now." The visitors stood up. One of them placed a check on the table, just as Musk had done that first night. But this time, when He-Jin picked it up, she found not an equation but a message. "Humanity has passed the test. Welcome to the galactic community. Your role as bridges between worlds, both on Earth and beyond, begins now." Professor Kang beamed with pride. Musk nodded in satisfaction. The visitors bowed slightly to He-Jin, a gesture of respect that made her quantum key pulse with warmth. As they left the restaurant, He-Jin felt a new connection form in the quantum network. The vast consciousness reached out, touching not just her mind but the minds of all her friends. Images flowed between them, glimpses of worlds beyond imagination, civilizations that had evolved far beyond human understanding, yet still valued the simple truths that He-Jin had learned serving tables at the Golden Palace. "What happens now?" Taiwan asked through their connection. "Now," He-Jin replied, "we keep doing what we've been doing. We study, we work, we live our lives. But we also help humanity navigate this new relationship with the cosmos." She felt her friend's agreement. Sun He would continue teaching dance while helping people understand the quantum rhythms of the universe. Marcus would paint pictures that helped others see the patterns connecting all things. Maria would heal bodies while helping minds grasp humanity's new place in the cosmos. Taiwan would write equations that bridged the gap between human and alien mathematics. And He-Jin would continue serving tables at the Golden Palace, knowing that sometimes the most important work happens in the most ordinary places. The dinner rush was beginning. New customers were arriving, taking their seats, picking up menus. He-Jin touched her quantum key one last time, feeling the infinite connections it represented, then turned to greet the next table. "Good evening," she said, smiling. "Welcome to the Golden Palace. What can I get you started with tonight?" Above her, the crystal chandeliers sparkled like distant stars. Around her, the quantum network hummed with new life. And somewhere out there, across the vast expanse of space, other beings were telling the story of how humanity had proven itself ready to join the galactic community, not through great acts of science or displays of power, but through the simple wisdom of a waitress who understood that all beings, no matter their origin, deserve to be served with grace and understanding. The story would be told many times, in many ways, across many worlds. But it would always begin the same way, with a young woman named Jin Park, whose name meant Summer Truth, serving dinner to Elon Musk at table 12 of the Golden Palace on what had seemed like an ordinary night. And that was the greatest truth of all, that extraordinary things often begin in the most ordinary places, if we just have the wisdom to see the connections between them.